Let's go straight into our presentation by Maria Wolfe with Public Safety Echo Project. And I will hand the floor to you, Maria.
Thank you. I thank you for this opportunity to speak to the Southeast Community Policing Council. Kelly, do I have screen sharing privileges?
You do now.
Oh, thank you so much. I just have a very brief presentation that gives you an overview of the Public Safety Echo program, and then I am happy to take questions and have a little discussion about what we're trying to do and see if anybody has ideas of specifics that we should bring to the table. It's just great to have this opportunity to come to this group. I think I came to you when we were just kicking off close to a year ago, and so it's great to be back again. Here is our presentation. And does everybody see the slide that I think is up that says Public Safety Echo? Excellent. It's always nice when Zoom works the way we think it should. The Public Safety Echo program was started close to 3 years ago, and it was started first in downtown, and now it is in both the downtown area and the Nob Hill/University area. And the Nob Hill-University Public Safety Echo started in, we started working on it last spring and we kicked it off last summer. The ECHO model, a lot of people are like, what the heck is ECHO? And so this is a program that started at the University of New Mexico School of Medicine close to 30 years ago now. And it, ECHO actually stands for Extension of Community Health Outcomes. It was developed by a doctor who is a hepatitis specialist, and he found that rural doctors were sending patients to him, and those patients were going to die because the doctors didn't have the expertise in this specialty. And instead of trying to see more and more patients, which was impossible for the doctor, he decided to build the capacity amongst the specialists, the practitioners in those areas, to be able to better serve and to know best practices. Fast forward 30 years and you have the ECHO project in every school of medicine across the country. You have it in 9,000 cities in the US, 180 countries, and they are addressing not just medical issues like hepatitis, but they're looking at things like autism, traumatic brain injury, and they've been a specialist in the last couple of years on sharing best practices with COVID, COVID treatment, COVID prevention, and especially they had a huge grant to work on trying to get disease prevention practices put into nursing homes across the United States. So it gives you an idea of how the ECHO project has been working. They have an excellent reputation for sharing best practices and problem solving because what they really have specialized in since the beginning is moving knowledge, not people. That's one of their taglines. Another one is that everybody teaches, everybody learns. And so in the ECHO project, you have every session a presentation, but you also have learning where everybody at the table can share their experience, their ideas, other solutions that might address it from a multidisciplinary problem-solving approach. The ECHO project has always used technology to amplify access to the information. So when we all went to Zoom, with the shutdowns a couple of years back now, this was a program that just kept going because we always had a technology foundation for the work we were doing. ECHO. In their COVID training, they'll sometimes have 2,000 people tuning in to find out the latest on the research, and they're from across the globe, literally from every continent except Antarctica. I don't know, maybe Antarctica started tuning in at the end, but so they amplify access. They drop down the silo of information by having access as easy as a phone call, an internet connection to Zoom in. They've been using Zoom for years and years. Then they really work on sharing best practices to reduce that disparity of the people who have the knowledge or don't have the knowledge by really making sure that people can listen in, have access, and then share their learning as well. It's not just a class where you have a webinar presentation, but we have the case-based learning where people bring an actual issue to the table, and then everybody who's in the session has an opportunity to participate. Now, I have to say that since they started having like the 2,000 people participating in the recent things, it's been a little different. They've had a more panelist approach, but in a typical ECHO session, you would have everybody at the table having the opportunity for a voice. An example of the case-based learning is in the yesterday's Nob Hill ECHO session. The case was talking about a business in the Nob Hill area that had had a number of robberies. And so they were by the same individual, and we were able to bring to the table information from the policing side, from the video real-time crime center side, and how videos could be used in that situation, how to share videos when you have something happen on your property or in your business, and then looking at potential crime solutions from crime prevention specialists that are part of the area command. And then also looking at things that are happening in the area in terms of the environment, issues like that. Then the other key part of the ECHO program is that you are constantly just like, we don't just have a session, but we track exactly who's attending, how many sessions they've attended, try to get regular feedback from individuals. And try to have as much data building as you can to look at what's working or not working for the participants who are trying to benefit from the learning and the shared best practices. So again, you know, why the ECHO, it's because of the application with the use of technology, shared best practices, case-based learning. So it can be something as dramatic as a robbery, but it could also be something that's just a little bit more cautious, like another case we had in the Nob Hill University ECHO was a person was sitting on a neighbor's porch, and the neighbor didn't know they were there. They weren't there at the neighbor's invitation. Other neighbors saw what was happening. What's the best way to handle a situation like this? Do you call 911? Do you call 242 cops? You know, what are the opportunities for learning that all the neighbors could share in a situation like this? Or another case was, how can we get help for a person in the family who has an addiction issue? Is the law enforcement assisted diversion program something that community members can use, or is it really only for law enforcement officers? And so learning more about the LEAD program and what we now know is called a social referral, and exactly how to make a social referral so that other people can be helped, not just family members, but people that we know in the community who might need help as well. So there's a couple of examples of cases that have come up in the Nob Hill-UNM ECHO program. Another part that's important about what we're trying to do is that it's really, it's not just having a program and having the session, but it's really building those partnerships with that multidisciplinary problem-solving group. So for the Nob Hill-University ECHO, we're not just working with APD officers, but we're also working with UNM officers. We're working with ACS teams. We're working with solid waste, and we're working with the Parks Division, and we're working with the Hope Works and the Albuquerque Street Connect team. We're working with, VIP when we can, and, we're working with a wide variety of people who are trying to make a difference in our city, trying to help people feel good about their community and feel safe. So the key thing that this infographic is showing is the importance of sort of the learning loops and then the partnering groups that are all part of the session with us. We can't do this by ourselves, we have to do it together. And that's a really important part of what we're doing, is working together, creating a problem-solving environment with key stakeholders and just members of our community and our neighborhoods. And so this just lays out a little bit about some detail about how the different roles are laid out in terms of looking at setting up an ECHO program. You have a hub team, that's that core team representing the people who have key roles in public safety. Then from that hub team, you go out to what we call the spokes. And so these are key stakeholders that support the group in the community. So solid waste, we don't have them in our hub team, but they're an absolute key member of the community, making communities feel safe because they're clean and they're well kept and maintained environments. Then from the spokes, you have stakeholders. You have, city councilors, or you have neighborhood association leaders, or you have school PTO or PTA representatives. You have University of New Mexico Safety Committee representatives. These are people who are with organizations as a volunteer or professional basis who bring key information to the table and bring potential solutions to the table or problems to the table. And then you have champions, people who just want to see this working throughout the community. And then what's not listed here is we just have all the other community members who want to be part of the solution or who want to learn more about how things are working and how people can work together. So again, it's all teach, all learn. This is just a little infographic showing you sort of that hub team along with those different spokes who are at the table with you. So, so when we think about how this got started, a lot of people said, why downtown? Why'd you start with downtown? And well, our downtown is a high concentration of people in an area who are working in an area. We only have a couple of parts of the city that have high rises with a high density of population. With the high density of population, we also had a high concentration of crime per capita, and so it became a hot spot to start with. So again, it's cross-disciplinary, and in the city, that means cross-departmental. And so we're bringing together as many of the players as possible to solve problems. So when the Downtown Public Safety ECHO first started, they did about 6 months worth of community meetings with various stakeholder groups and identified the curriculum that we focus on when it comes to those didactic learning presentations. And so skills training is a basic part of what we have throughout the program. And so we'll talk about specific skills like de-escalation training, reading body language, situational awareness as you're walking down the street or entering into an area, active listening or interviewing. There's a variety of specific skills that we can help people learn that make them feel more comfortable in their environment and better able to read a situation. Mental health, of course, is an important curriculum area for us to understand what's going on with the people in our community who are struggling. And the more we understand sort of what is schizophrenia and what is a psychotic break, and how can we address people and reduce the stigma of mental illness, and better able to approach each person with respect and dignity, it can only help us all in dealing with the environment that we're working within. This slide says drug prevention. We actually call it, addiction or substance use awareness and stigma reduction, again, because it's here. We just have to figure out better how to understand what's going on. Part of that is like learning what is methamphetamine, how does it impact the brain, how does it make people behave in the ways that it does. And then when we see somebody on the street behaving in various ways, how can we understand more why they're behaving that way? Because the more we understand why things are happening, the less it's scary, right? We hope that a higher level of understanding and knowledge reduces the fear factor involved. So whether it's methamphetamine or fentanyl or opioid use disorder, or alcoholism, addictions are out there and they're real, and they're a chronic illness. And so helping everybody understand the different ways of treating addiction, or the different ways that addiction can impact behavior, can help our community members live more comfortably in their environment. A big part of what we do is we also help everybody understand, how does policing work? Like, what is lead? Why do police officers set a perimeter around an area when they are dealing with a situation? And a variety of, like, why do we have a mounted patrol? And how do those horses get trained? Or how do we recruit officers, and how has that changed over the years? How do we train officers? There just are a variety of things that the more people understand how it works and what the thinking is behind some of it, the more, again, you can feel more comfortable in dealing with that officer when you're encountering a situation. And so it builds trust and understanding, the layers that we need in our community to work together well. Then finally, community improvement or community wellness is a big part of it. So just understanding, like, what's going on in terms of economic development, or what's going on with the events that are happening in our area, or how are people working together. So community wellness it's sort of a catch-all for quite a few things. Like, for example, the Downtown Public Safety Echo next session is going to have the Albuquerque Film Department do a presentation on how they coordinate with police and fire when they're working on different locations, and how do they do all of their coordination for films. And so it's kind of just an interesting topic that a lot of people are interested in, but it also ties back into, how do you coordinate for safety when you have events and programs or films in your neighborhood? So then a lot of people, when we moved up and added a second ECHO program and did the second ECHO program in the Nob Hill-University area, they said, well, why there? Why not, here or there, that might have a higher impact? And so part of the reason for expanding to that area was that this was a program that had a lot of the same partners that we had success with in the downtown area. So we had the Heading Home Street Connect working in that area. We had Block by Block, the street ambassadors that are so active downtown, also in the Nob Hill area. The Nob Hill area had a PRT team with a bike team doing more direct outreach to the businesses and to the community members. And so, and then those kinds of things were very clear partnerships that had worked well in the downtown area. And so replicating in an area that had similar partnerships made a lot of sense in terms of being able to make it work fairly quickly, and then the city can decide where to go next when we have the opportunity to expand the program. So when we went up to the Nob Hill area in terms of how to design it, we did a Nob Hill survey, safety survey and concern survey. We did some Zoom sessions with stakeholders through the neighborhood associations and the business groups. And we sought input with direct outreach to the businesses and to the neighborhood associations during that process. Really, the ultimate goal of the Public Safety Echo is to really help our community members come together and proactively solve problems that are impacting their sense of personal safety or community safety, and to build trust and partnering. And that's really the bottom line goal that we have for each of these sessions. So Public Safety Echo so far, we've had 93 sessions. You can read through all of these stats that are here. We have over 3,000 total attendees, 623 who attend multiple sessions. 73 cases have been addressed, 93 presentations. You can see the variety of topics that are covered and what we have coming up in the next couple months is on that slide. So then when we do our surveys of people afterwards, we have a high level of agreement that people find that the sessions help them and apply to their interactions in their daily life downtown, and that they provided resources that were helpful for the downtown community. And you can do like, what are the keywords that pop up most often? And you can see here, you have a lot of detailed, understanding, engaging, informative. So you can kind of get an idea of the feedback that we're getting from these sessions. So Nob Hill, we've had 15 sessions so far, had over 500 total attendees, addressed 12 cases. I think we have about, I have to go back because that 523 total attendees is how many are on each session. So that's not necessarily individual people, because we have a high level of regular attendees who are attending every session at this point. We've had presentations on homeless intervention programs, the APD Real-Time Crime Center, violence intervention programs, thanks to Angel, who presented for that. And you can see the variety of other programs. What we have coming up is talking about trauma and triggers for trauma and how to deal with somebody who's been triggered, peer support and treatment, social referrals, and lead, and getting more into detail on that as a follow-up to the case with a formal presentation. We're always trying to figure out that nice balance between providing information on how policing works, addiction and substance use, mental health, community wellness, and then specific skills training. So we'll definitely be getting a presentation on de-escalation again in there soon. And we'll also be looking at some of the, looking at schizophrenia, bipolar, and some of the impact of addiction on mental health, since a lot of people have a co-occurring issue. And again, in terms of feedback on the program, we have a high level of agreement that the program brings value to the people who participate. And the keywords are smaller because we don't have as many of them, but they feel like it's helpful And we get pretty positive feedback. When something doesn't work, we definitely hear about it. Recent responses let us know that the presenter who wore a mask during his presentation, it was very difficult for him to understand. So we'll definitely be paying attention to that and making sure we don't have that issue in the future. So what's next? We're going to, continue working with these communities, try to expand the audience, but we'll also be, trying to look at how best to move forward. And one thing that is a change for the program, which I think is really positive, is that in the past we have said, the downtown echo is really for the downtown community, and the Nob Hill-University echo is really for the Nob Hill-University community. And I want you all to know that what we want to do is make sure that everybody feels welcome to attend any of these sessions and learn from them. We will continue to do more intensive outreach, that face-to-face, boots-on-the-ground outreach in these communities, and be very community focused. But we want, anybody who is interested in learning about these topics to feel like they can participate. And so anybody is welcome who's a part of our community. I think that's the highlights of what I was trying to do. So if anybody, I'll put my email in the chat. I'm happy to answer any questions, and I'm happy to add anybody to the invitation list for the programs. We send out a specific invitation so you know what topics are being covered, so you can opt in or opt out at any point that you like. Are there any questions or concerns?
Thank you, Maria. That was really informative.
I have a question. You gave an example early in your presentation, Maria, about the guy that was sitting on the porch and the communication around the neighborhood. What was the resolution on that situation?
Yeah, so with the input with everybody at the table, there was a high level of agreement that if somebody in the neighborhood knew it was happening, then if you don't have reason to believe that this person is dangerous, that keeping a safe distance, it's good to have a couple of neighbors join you and call out to the person. And say, hi, are you here, to see somebody special? And this is just an approach where you can try to address the situation in a community way, because the neighbors were right there and they already knew it was happening. They called the neighbor, asked her, and she said she didn't know somebody was there, and she was surprised and asked for them to help. They did help. And so the question was, is that the best thing to do? And the answer was, it depends on the situation and how you feel about what's going on and how the person responds to that initial response. Then if the response is not something where that person responds to the community members, then the next step is to go that route of calling for help. And so you can, if you feel at risk and there's an indication of a potential for violence, you're always going to call 911 because it's scary and it's happening right now. If there is not a violent, but you just need some help, you have opportunities of 242 cops, or using what I always encouraging people to use is that APD app. Because that's a very straightforward way of, the neighbors could literally take a picture of that person on the porch, submit the what's happening, ping the address, get it out. Then there was an encouragement that if there was an option to have a photo where you knew who it was, that you could submit it, and then APD would know that this individual has done this. And if it's happening at more than one house or happening across the board, they know what's happening. Knowledge is helpful. Also, now that information could also be shared with the new community safety department as well. So I don't know if I'm remembering everything that was brought up in that situation, but during the session, when we're talking about options, One of my jobs, my role is to just frantically type and try to capture as clearly as possible what the suggestions and solutions are. And then that is sent out as a follow-up to everybody who participated in the program that day. And so it's there. The information is also going on the website that we have for it. But I have to tell you, I always tell people it's like running up the down escalator. I'm always behind on getting the videos and the solutions onto the website in a timely way, but the information is captured.
So in that particular situation, was APD called through 911 or 242 cops, or was it handled by the neighbors and the fellow was escorted off the property, off the porch, or was someone else called?
So in that situation specifically, what happened is that a couple of neighbors called out to the person from the sidewalk and said, hey, you know, can we help you? What are you doing here? And the person was not responsive to them, but he wandered off, is how it was described to me. And so it was not reported, it was not captured. So there's not a record that this individual had done this. So we don't know who it was at that time. And so that's part of the reason we talk about this, is because there's an important part about finding out what's going on.
So you don't know for sure if the guy was just someone just resting, or from being homeless, or on some kind of a drug or something like that. No one had contact with him. He just wandered off.
Yeah, nobody official had contact with them. Just a couple of the neighbors, you know, called out to the person, and so then he left the area. You know, we don't know. And this was sort of like, this happened, and then the neighbor thought, I wonder if that was the best way to handle this. And so that's why they brought it to the table.
Yeah, okay.
Does that help, Ron?
It did, thank you.
Okay, yeah. Other questions? Let's see, were there any questions in the chat that I should look at?
Not seeing any in the chat.
Gosh, I can't believe I was that complete. Mike.
One of the things that I'm impressed with, and it seems to be overlooked, is that these kinds of multidisciplinary approaches with a broad spectrum of community resources doesn't focus solely on police doing something. And this is an issue that has come up a number of times across the CPCs, that our recommendations should be focused solely on what APD needs to do. And we're looking at ways to broaden the community engagement and response so that we can bring in, you know, solid waste to clean up stuff in the neighborhood that will reduce the attractiveness for, you know, people that are maybe dumping trash because they're lazy, or maybe they're homeless and they don't have any place to dispose of trash and so forth. So it will be an ongoing discussion among various CPCs about how to adapt this, and in particular how to address it in our recommendations for, I call it fostering greater public safety and prosperity. So it's not simply law enforcement. So I'll leave it at that.
So I have to give Commander Langet creds for participating really actively in each of these sessions, and he always brings incredible information to the table and helps clarify issues. But it is great to be able to point out to people that you don't talk too much. You always really help clarify things that we all need to understand. I mean, it's building that understanding of how things work. But I also think it's so important for people to understand that there should be a lot more approaches to solving a problem before we call the police. Like, I know that there are some times our emergency lines are tied up with people calling police for things that are like not, like, probably your trash dumpster is not gone because somebody stole it. You know, you could call 311 and get your trash dumpster replaced. You don't have to call the police for that. Or, you know, there just are things that I think a lot of people haven't had that opportunity to really think it through and know that there are a lot of solutions out there. And we have a lot of ways of helping everybody feel safer or feel more secure about what's going on around them. I can tell you, I've been doing this for 2 years, and my brain has kind of exploded with all the information, who's doing what, and all the different ways people can work together to just make our community healthier and safer and happier. So, and also now I know how awesome the police are for a lot of it.
Can I add one thing to that, Maria?
Sure.
And I like how it was said about, you know, we always talk about community policing. And I forgot who I was telling this to before, but in a way, I just think of it as community. And an example that I can give is, it started with the Coronado Park downtown. So it started down in the valley where all of the city departments basically came together weekly, a couple times a week, to discuss issues and work out issues at Coronado Park. So you had solid waste, you had planning, you had zoning, you had ACS, you had APD, you had city security, you had all the players at the table, you know. So and maybe this is just being technical in the weeds. Community policing, yeah, we definitely have a spoke, and we have a role and responsibility, but everyone's absolutely right. I mean, there's so many different options now, and that's a good thing. I really truly believe that we're in a good place now here in 2022, where, you know, it's not just the police or the fire department that can respond. Now we have mental health providers, we have social service coordinators, you know, we have fire, we have paramedics. There's a whole, you know, myriad of responders that are the best ones to respond. So what I really like about ECHO is that the education, still, there's so many in our community that have no idea though. Business, residential, and ECHO, in my opinion, it kind of provides that education of hey, what's available to help you in these type of situations. So Maria, you do a fantastic job with it. Kudos.
Thank you. Thanks. Ron, you had another question.
Marie, I live in Nob Hill and am a part of the Nob Hill Neighborhood Association. And I want you to know that the Nob Hill Neighborhood Association appreciates very much the ECHO program in Nob Hill and the work that's ongoing.
Well, it is a pleasure partnering with the neighborhood association there, and we've been working with University Heights as well, and I think Parkland Hills has started participating, and so we'll definitely, you know, I will always work to expand the contact with any of the residents who want to participate.
Great, thank you.
Absolutely. And Ron, you just let us know if you have any issues you need to bring to the table. We're always looking for good cases to discuss.
Thank you. Thank you, Maria. I appreciate it.
You
Good
bet.
information.
And I'll pop my contact info in the chat right now, and I'm happy to, and I called out Angel. He's presented and done a great job too. So it's always great to have really good presentations that help everybody understand what's going on. Thank you for this time.
Thank you.